right, guys, welcome back to another AAC podcast here. My name is Roy Castillo. My other host here, Jaron Matheson. We're here with my good friend Forrest. We actually met when you actually invited. Actually, we found out you guys through Tyler. Tyler was here on our podcast here.
Yeah,
he told us about the training that you guys have a facility out there. It's north of McKinney.
Yep.
It's about another 20 minutes drive from McKinney to there. It's called Checkmate Training.
Yep.
So we got to spend some time. It was so fast. When I was there, not only did I learn a lot, you and I really got into the conversation of what was happening during COVID for you.
Yeah.
You were military. You were also...
So I wasn't military.
You wasn't military.
Nope. Civilian all the way.
You're civilian all the way. Okay.
Yep.
But you expressed to me that you were there in Chicago when we first heard about the breakout, including...
Hold on, we gotta stop. Go back to him. You got out of focus.
Oh, did I? I did this. My bad.
No, it's focused on you, Roy, with your hand now. He's out of focus. It's right here.
Okay.
So
do we want to?
We had to just start
do
over.
a retake. That's fine.
Yeah. We barely got going, and I stopped.
At least now you know about the military thing.
Hold on. I'm just gonna turn it a little bit. Okay, look forward.
It is. If you want me to, I can be careful about hand motions.
His face, because it was like this.
Yeah.
And it was getting his face right here, and it wanted to autofocus.
Does it have a tap focus where you can just tap it and it'll lock on me? It's a Sony, right? Yeah, Sony. It should.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're good now, right? That looks good. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
We're good.
Does that look good? That looks good. Okay, I just moved it a little more just in case we get back. Okay, that looks good. All right.
Sweet.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode here at AAC Podcast. You got me, Roy Castillo, my good friend here, Jaron, and my brand new friend I got to meet, Forrest. Brother, we got to be introduced to you by one of our guests here that we had here on the show, Tyler.
Yeah.
And he was telling us about the training facility you guys have out there north of McKinney, about 20 minutes out, and got to spend some time with you, Tyler, and learn about, different ways of entering a room, how not to enter a room when pistol handling.
Yeah.
And you and I got on the subject of understanding, your position with COVID. You were actually you were just a normal civilian. You were there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were there when I guess the very first person brought COVID over to the United States.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird scenario. So I had just started my business in December of 2019, and it was March. No, it would have been a little bit after March because I was out in Las Vegas for Con Expo in March. And so it would have been just after that. I was flying from Texas to Chicago to meet up with some potential clients in Chicago and Milwaukee. And the day I landed in Chicago, my dad picked me up. He's from that area. So he picked me up and we have the radio on. And shortly after, we get kind of like this radio feed that's like, the first person just landed in Chicago O'Hare Airport, just fresh off of out of China, and had the first COVID case. And it was the same terminal area that I was walking through, and I was like wondering why we have all these folks with masks that look like they're coming straight from China. At the time it was a bunch of rumors, but I didn't really know what was going on, so it was kind of a weird scenario walking through and seeing everybody coming from China straight into Chicago. So yeah, that was kind of the first exposure that I had with it just after Vegas, which they shut down the conference, or just after the conference, the streets were basically closed off the day I flew out of Vegas. So it was a really eerie feeling. Everybody was on the streets one day, and Vegas is packed anyway.
Yeah.
And then the next, there was not a single soul out there. I've got photos of the same spot, foot traffic, and then
nothing.
The day later, nothing. Yeah.
Wow.
It was weird.
I was actually in Vegas in, I want to say like February 5th or 6th.
Yeah, so
and
you were just a month behind me.
They were just talking about something at this point. And I remember being at the poker table, and I don't know if they used the word COVID yet or something, but they were talking about some kind of thing that looks like it's developing and it's going on over in Asia. And I just remember people going like, oh my gosh, one of these number of dumb things going on again. And then bam, it just changed everything.
Yeah, honestly, I thought it was just gonna be like another Ebola thing, right?
Yeah.
They'd been talking about Ebola for years before, right? And this could spread to the U.S. and be a big issue. And then I don't know if they even classified it as COVID, but I remember seeing news feed of what they showed as people falling over dead in China from COVID. Obviously, I don't believe that was what was going on. But yeah, I know it scared a lot of people, of course, those first few months. And then, yeah, that was a really eerie feeling, being in like one of the most busy cities.
It was.
And then just no one on the streets the next day.
I mean, I would say it had to been almost feel like, Night of the Living Dead or something, whatever, one of those zombie movies where like, it's just like everything was happening. Everything was all normal. Things were going on. And then boom, you just kind of walk outside and there's like no one in sight. It's just that eerie feeling. You're just like, am I in a movie or something like that?
Yeah, it was really weird. It was very odd because it was like, that's how they get all their business in Vegas, is obviously through the casinos and through like entertainment, right? So for them to just shut everything down, it was one of those things where you're like I'm not worried about it, but then you start seeing some signs of stuff like that happen. You're like, this is interesting. I guess we'll see what happens, right? You're still not super worried about it. It seems like everybody's just being a little overly cautious, and it's like, okay, well, let's see how this unfolds. But obviously we know that took a turn for the worst. So
I thought it was like from the beginning, I was like, this is just something like so stupid with this.
There was something off, man.
So off. I remember, where was I? Going to the grocery store, and I refused to wear a mask the whole time. I was like, I'm not doing it. I like, even when I went on airplanes, I would put the bandana, and then they banned the bandana. So I'd have to wear a mask to get on, and then I would just put a hoodie over my face, and I pretend I'm sleeping, because I'm like, I'm not breathing in this thing. Like,
I wouldn't do it. I'd piss everybody
No.
off. I'd piss everybody off. And I mean, I've had them call the authorities multiple times on the flight, and they just have like, I used to fly Southwest a lot, and so they would just call what they called the authorities, but it would really just be like a Southwest employee. Nobody would show a badge or anything like that. But yeah, it got, obviously, like the southern states and the people that, like here in Texas, there were certain businesses that shut down, but most of them stayed open. Like we didn't have much like halt in any kind of our daily lives, but places like New York and California, Illinois, places like that, like shut down heavily. So.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get into, like because you did a lot of research on laws and the mandates and everything that comes along with that.
Yeah.
For me, it was just one of those times where we were actually in Oklahoma. We were camping.
Oh yeah.
When we first heard about this, and we're like, are we going to be, my first thought was like, are we going to be camping forever now?
Yeah, right. Is this the start? Is this how it ends?
Is this the start?
Oh my gosh.
And so
I've watched The Walking Dead. Okay?
I know exactly. That's exactly how I was like, all right, I gotta get into dad protection mode now.
Yeah, right.
And so, but that's how I treated it. But I did wear the mask. I mean, not so much I wore it just because I needed to know more information.
Yep.
So even though, and to me at the time it was, let's just better be safe than sorry.
Yeah. And there were a lot of people like that. And like, by no means, from what I did, would I look down on anybody that like thought that was the right decision, right? Like they had a lot of people, they had a lot of news agencies scaring everybody. I know my family was asking me, well, if this could even have a 1% chance that you could kill somebody, shouldn't you wear it? And I was like, no. And that pissed them off, right? So like I didn't make friends, whether in my family or outside of my family, because of how strict I was on it. But later down the road, they came back and they're like, hey, like, we actually appreciate how firm you were on this and how much studying you did on this, because it just felt weird. It was off.
Why the stance? Even they said they pulled up, obviously it's a hypothetical scenario. If there was a 1% chance that it could help, you stood your ground to say no, because why?
Yeah. Well, because it's not my responsibility to look out for your well-being. Right. So like I will look out for everybody's well-being, but if you're concerned about your health going out in public, don't go out in public. Right. I'm not going to know everybody's health, position when I go out to the store. Your health position, right? If you're somebody that's likely to catch a virus and possibly die from it, you should be pretty concerned about coming out into the store. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put my health at risk because of people potentially having an issue with it, which I already knew. It wouldn't hurt because the mask doesn't block for that kind of virus, right? Mm-hmm. So we already know if the mask doesn't block it at all, why wear it? And we also know that wearing a mask is bad for your health. So I'm not going to put my own health at risk so that I could potentially save somebody that's not going to happen. It's not going to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what my stance was. And obviously people were pretty pissed off about it. They were just like, hey, like even if it could help, wouldn't you want to? And I'm like,
yeah,
look, if it could, then it's really up to them to make that decision, not me. You know, I worked in construction my whole life. We had OSHA laws against how long you could wear a mask, a 95 mask. And it was 2 hours max, and you had to take a 24-hour break. When COVID came out and they made these mandates on the masking, they immediately removed that OSHA law from the books. They took it off. So I don't know why 65 to 75 years of data on how bad a mask could be for you just went out the window all of a sudden. But I know I wasn't going to.
See, that makes me even think about even the medical field where these medical doctors are actually working on patients and they're having to wear that mask that whole time, understanding the whole time they're injuring or even possibly poisoning their own selves.
Well, and that's another thing too, is like, you know, our daughter had a major fever one day, and we went in, we didn't know, we were brand new parents. We're like, hey, it's like 105. Like, what do we do? Which at the time we had no idea. I guess that's semi-normal for infants to have a really high fever. But they were hounding me, and everybody made the same argument, right? Like, well, we wear these on a daily basis. It's not that big of a deal. Are you really going to fight over this? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Because it's like, there's no difference. Nothing is different in the world with COVID. Nothing. The only difference is just how people want to perceive it. And I look at it as a test, a very easy test to see where society would stand. And I think we failed miserably as a society. But I think we learned a lot from it too. So
I'm with you on that. I think it was more of a test.
Yeah.
And they wanted to see what would happen and if America would fall.
Yeah.
Because then the rest of the world would have fell. Because basically the whole world basically locked down crazy. There's a few countries that didn't do it as crazy as everyone else.
Yeah.
And I think Sweden was one of them. They just kind of locked their country down.
Yeah.
But they kept pretty good like restrictions. I don't think you had to wear a mask. Like they told the elderly like stay at home and like. But the whole idea of if you can smell a fart through your mask and you believe it's going to stop a virus, like, that's not going to work.
You could do tests on it fairly easy, like especially in wintertime.
That's a great analogy, Jaron.
I actually,
I'm not farting through my masks, but
no, I told this. I got like I was. I'm sorry to interrupt your thought, but I want to say this story real quick. Because I was at the grocery store, and this is my first confrontation. Everyone has a mask on, I don't. And this manager came up and was like, somebody probably must have found, this guy doesn't have a mask, and went and told, like, sir, you can't come in here without a mask on.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I farted right now, would you smell my fart through your mask? And I go, you would. So like, you really think that thing on your face is protecting you from an invisible virus that can go through there? And the guy like looked at me like dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Because I think it was more of like, are people going to stand up for how silly this is?
Yeah, very silly, right? Like I get it. I understand folks that want to be safe, and I don't put it past them. I think it's interesting. Like, you can go outside in the cold, right, and you can put a mask on and you can go and you see it, right, just in the mist. It's not hard to do a test on it. The masks themselves on the back say that it does not cover this.
I know.
So it's like the manufacturer guidelines say it doesn't work for this, and then you have doctors, and now we see, right, they're coming out and we just made these rules up. What, no crap. Like we knew that in the beginning. So
that just came out recently. I know, with Fauci.
Even the guy. Yeah, I was about to say we don't really, we can say his name, but
I don't care saying his name.
What do they say in Harry Potter? The name that shall not.
The name that shall not be.
I was just gonna say the guy that sounds with ouchie.
Oh
gosh.
Even came out and said that it doesn't work.
Dude, he's a criminal. He's a world criminal.
What do you think when you go to the airport and you're gonna get on this metal tube and you gotta wear the mask? But the worst part to me wasn't the mask. It was this stupid 6 feet waiting in line.
Yeah. But then you sit 2 inches from somebody.
Yeah, and I'm like, come on, guys, like, really? You really think that this is going to help to stand 6 feet away, but you're gonna get in this metal tube for the next 3 hours?
Well, and then I go back to my case where it's like, if you're that concerned about it, don't fly.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to restrict me on where I can go, right? Just don't do it yourself. Right?
I mean,
so
yeah. I got another funny one real quick that I can't remember who.
I'm enjoing these funny stories.
Dude, I was actually
we started with farts and now we're talking about
planes. I was actually with PBD when this happened.
Okay.
I was at his house and we were by the pool and he saw a tweet and he showed it to me, and it was hilarious. I can't remember who tweeted it first, but then it went kind of like viral. It's like driving around in a car with a mask on.
Yeah.
Is going to bed with a condom on alone.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you doing, dude? I still see, like, it's just funny, like, outside. It's like, dude, this is fresh air. You're not going to get more, like, out in the national parks or something like that. They would require them in national parks, and it'd be like, nobody was out there. But it's like, this is the freshest air you could breathe. Like, that's good for you. Like, fresh air is really good for you. So I'm like, I don't know.
But it's so funny. I see this I'd see this everywhere I go. Where everyone, I'm pretty sure everyone has seen this. Where you've seen that person, they're driving the car.
Yeah.
They have their mask on, and they're smoking a cigarette.
Yes. Yeah. No joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet to see that one.
Yeah. I've seen that so many times.
Yeah. Or they'll pull it down so they can.
And I'd still see that. Last year, I still saw it still happening, and this is in Florida too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's crazy.
I got another one for you guys while we're on this.
Open.
You know there was someone that was at their house alone showering with a mask on.
That'd be funny.
You know that happened, right? It totally has had to happen.
I'm sure, man.
Somebody
sure it happened somewhere.
Yeah. Somebody was freaking out.
Someone put a
But the whole point of that, though,
is
it's more about the fear. Like the elite or whoever is like controlling stuff, they want to see what's going on, right?
I just find it funny that, like, they patented everything back in 2012. Like, how do you not pick that up where it's like, in 2012, they told us they were going to do this. They even told us how they were going to do this. And then they did it. And then everyone just, like, failed to do the research to figure out, like, yeah, this was planned, right? It's just, I don't know.
They're kind of telling us it's going to happen again.
Yeah, I think they're going to, obviously, I listen to a lot of folks that are good people, and they've got their own assumptions on what's going to happen. I think they're going to make it a lot worse this time, right? They're going to try and put the focus on those of us that won't comply, right, like we did in the first time. And I think there's going to be more people that don't comply the second time if they do end up doing it. But they're going to make you look like terrorists. They're going to make you look like the bad guys, and they're going to try and lock you up. And I think that's why it was so important to go through this the first time, is to see, like, hey, how stupid this is. Maybe we'll have enough people that actually stand their ground this time, if it comes back around. I sure hope it doesn't, but
yeah, we don't obviously we don't want it to happen again, but
yeah,
this was their test, and they're kind of learning from, okay, this is what happened, this is what we're going to do next time. Yeah. So you just got to make sure you're prepared. And then there's certain people in my family that took it. I didn't look down at them, but
you don't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny how they look down on you for not taking.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I got screamed at multiple times. I was in San Francisco at boarding a flight in San Francisco, and I had this little gay guy screaming at me in the airport. Put that on. Put the mask on. Put it on. And then his sister was there, like, stop yelling. And he's like, no, he needs to do this. And, he went over and talked to the flight attendant before we got on. And she didn't say anything to me. And I went on the plane. He was just staring at me the entire flight. I was like, bro, I'm really sorry. And I said, I really hope you have a great day. Don't let this bother you. And he was just pissed. He was mad that I wasn't getting angry back, to be honest.
Though they want you to engage.
Yeah,
they really want you to engage.
Yeah, they do.
So what do you think about the shot then? How crazy that thing went? Because that was like the next phase of this. That went nuts.
What really frustrated me is, I don't know, from the beginning you could tell there's something fishy, and each step that went along it just like confirmed and like reaffirmed, hey, this is where we need to stand. And then I still had friends that were like, I want to travel out of the country, so I'm going to get it. And I'm like, you don't even know what's in it. You don't know what it's going to do to you. I don't know what it's going to do to you, right? Like, I didn't even want to take the tests, right? I don't want to be taking those PCR tests. I don't even know what those are, right? Sticking a swab up your nose. I don't know where these swabs are coming from. Mm-hmm. So it's weird. I think everybody was just so gung-ho, ready to go do their part.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was...
Do you remember the Jimmy Fallon one when he dressed up as like an actual like needle thing and he's dancing like take the shot? You ever seen that?
I don't think I saw that one.
Okay.
No.
I really wish we could pull this up right now.
I mean,
we're getting there, but like
we'll get to that point.
After you got to go watch Jimmy Fallon on YouTube
as the shot.
He dresses up as a shot and they're singing and he's like telling people like go take it because this and like the brainwashing that people were doing to force this down your throat.
Dude, everybody's favorite one is I forgot what his name is. Did the burger and fries.
Oh, the free. That's the governor of.
What was it?
It's Chris Cuomo's brother, I believe.
Yeah. I don't remember
what's his name?
I can't remember.
He got in some. But yeah.
Are you telling me I could get a fry?
Oh no! I think that was the Michigan guy.
Maybe it was.
I think I don't know, but yeah, there's some governor that went like this. You can get a burger.
But then when you watch him take a bite of it, he's like, "Do I really have to eat this on live TV?" Like he did not want to eat that burger. It was really funny.
Yeah, and then right after this was happening, there was people like fainting and dying live on TV, like months after the shots went viral. Like,
oh yeah, dude.
Coincidence? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No way.
Well, even the person that developed the mRNA vaccine said you should not be taking this. Like you should not be taking this. This is not good. This is altering your DNA.
So why do you think? I'm really curious your thought of when so many people took it. Why do you think they did it? Is it because the fear of the government, the fear of the people around them, just the perception of this is what you do? Like you said, you have to save people. Like what's your thoughts?
I think there's categories to it, right? Like some people thought this was like genuinely helping, right? And they just were misled. Others were like, I'm going to comply because I'm being pressured. There were some that were like, I don't want to do this, but I want to partake in all the fun activities, so I'm going to do it. And in my mind, I'm like, hey, like this is only short term. Like just wait a few years and you'll be able to travel international again. Nobody's going to care. But they didn't want to wait, right? They just want to get right into doing their normal lives. And I think this was like the first introduction after the entire country shut down where the government's like, hey, you could get back to normal life if you take the vaccine.
So they give you a carrot.
And so, yeah, and it's like, that's when people start to fail and their discernment just goes out the window, right? They see this little, like you said, the carrot. And they're like, okay, well, if I can do that, then they're going to give me access to my life again. It's like it's not their rule to give you access to your life. You shouldn't have shut it down in the first place.
So did you make your decisions based on gut feeling, what you believed in, or was it more, I've done my research, I've looked at the data, I've spoken to some experts. How did you make your decision, and how did that evolve?
That's a good question. I think maybe both, right? Like there's a part of me that like from the beginning, the gut feeling was just off. There's something stupid about this. And then like logic just didn't fit, right? Studying, all the mandates that were coming out, all their, different rules that they were putting out. None of this stuff made logical sense at all.
You read the mandates?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I would print out the mandates for each state that I was flying into, so that I could hand it to like people to be like, hey, look, this is where I'm not following your law. Right.
And see, that's people need to take that more of that approach, because there's a lot of people where they left it up to their emotional feelings on both sides.
Yeah.
You had whether not to wear the mask, to wear the mask, to not get the shot, to get the shot.
Yeah.
It was all emotional driven.
It was.
And where people need to start, let's go look for the information. Let's look for the data, because this way we can make the right decision. Because I don't want to make, obviously I'm going to have my own gut feeling, which is good to have, but have data to support that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Behind, because I can't go to you and have an argument and say, yeah, you can't do this. This is because that would be an irrational and an emotional decision to go into an argument to rightfully debate, a topic. You go in there with things to back it up.
Yeah, and also like, right, like nobody had all the answers either, and I didn't claim that I had all the answers either. So I guess the gut feeling kind of came in for that, right? So it was just logic based for the most part. It's like, hey, they want you to do this, this, and this, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. Like if it doesn't make sense, I'm not going to do it. And another side of it was that they were pushing it so hard. Like government was pushing it so hard. There's obviously a reason why they're pushing it so hard, and it's the government has never done anything that's to your own best interest ever. So the fact that they're pushing it so hard, I need to take a step back and I need to logically think about this, and none of it made sense. So I wasn't about to just like fall into their trap. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I know now that like it just pisses me off on the daily. That like it's I mean they've knowingly and willingly ruined people's lives. They've killed people, and they made it hard for people to live their lives during these years. And like those are like war crimes. Those are like humanitarian crimes that the politicians and world leaders decided knowingly, and they all knew what was going on, because you could put news station after news station next to each other from across the entire country and see the exact same script. It's like somebody was giving them that script.
They have that one. I know Joe Rogan played it where they play all the
Yeah.
things. And I saw it before
right.
he did it, and I was so glad that he did
Yep.
because of the volume that he gets on his show.
Yeah.
But like, it's obvious they literally printed out a script and gave it to every stinking news channel across every in all the states.
Well, and then you watch those politicians that are preaching it, and they're not doing it themselves, right? Like, you know, Governor Newsom was out in the.
He's going to restaurants, man.
He's going to restaurants. It's like, you just went on live TV today and said you need to do this. You're not allowed to go out. You're not even allowed to have fireworks. You're not allowed to bring people over to 4th of July. You can't have gatherings more than 6 people at your house. I'm like, all right, we're partying tonight, guys. Let's get 50 people over here. Let's go. Like,
I think there was even a video of Nancy Pelosi being caught going to a hair salon.
Oh, yeah.
She did. And then she tried to like defend it. It's like,
It's literally, it was like Hunger Games, man. These people.
Well, and I think I told you, right? Like, I flew in to LA one time, like peak COVID, and they were all like giving me a hard time about it. And it's like, you know, hey, I've got the mandate right here. And it's like, what's missing on this mandate? It's like, there's not a signature or a seal from Secretary of State, from your governor. Like, this is not valid.
That's the part that was interesting. Yes, you said there's not
this isn't valid at all.
Go ahead. You go ahead and explain the whole thing. Yeah.
So a mandate's not a law, right? So we understand we don't have to follow a mandate anyway, especially if we don't think it's right. A mandate can only be pushed into law if it goes to the public first. And don't, like, this is from my own research before, so I could be wrong on some of this stuff. Check me, cite me on it. To my understanding, a mandate has to go through the public first and get accepted through the public before it becomes like a law. And it has to have a signature from the governor and a sealed stamp from Secretary of State to make it like an actual mandate. And California had neither on their website. A document that you could get. I mean, you could go print off these mandates on every government website for every state. You could go on there and be like, hey, show me the mandate. You could print it off. There's a clause in there about health, right? Like, what did they call it? An exemption, like a health exemption. And they're not allowed to ask you what the health exemption is, right? So that's just like an automatic out right there. It's like, I'm going to not follow these rules because of health exemption. They have no idea why I'm telling them that, and they can't ask me why.
I mean, the data speaks for itself, where you don't have to have those because you're going to, just having that up, you're going to influence people as it is.
Well, and like, for instance, like Southwest Airlines has their own policy on it too, right? So, I mean, if they're playing games, I'm playing games. Like, I'm not doing this to be pity, like, or like to, you know, like push it or just be stupid. But
well, you kind of are. You kind of are, but it's. I mean,
but for like reason, right?
It's for a reason, yeah.
So, but I'm not going out of my way
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not going out of my way to like play a game because I want to play games. Like, I will go around your policy and what it says because you have it and it's stupid. Like, I don't agree with it. For me to fly, you're saying that I have to have all this stuff, and then it says like unless you're eating or drinking or unless you have a health exemption.
That was the best.
So it's like, okay, give me a cup of coffee. I'll sit here and I will milk that cup of coffee this entire flight. Like, I don't care. You know, and it's just, they wanted to play the games.
Did you play back?
Yeah, like I didn't want to. I'm not the one that, you know, made the rules. You put the rules out, and I'm just following your rules on the game. So I don't know.
Dude, you know, you just picture this if they could have done it. And I think you might know this, but I think it was a federal law or mandate that they put on the airlines. But can you imagine if one airline said, you know, like, F it, we don't care, like, come on board. You know how much money they probably would have made?
So it's not an FAA law, the FAA law that they would get you on. And luckily none of them really pushed this on me because this is like an actual, to my understanding, it's an actual FAA law and you can be prosecuted for it. But it was for, like, I don't know how it's worded exactly, but you have to listen to the flight attendants, right? Like the people who are running the aircraft, you have to listen to their direction. It's like going out on a ship, right? Whoever the captain is going to make the rules.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So like if a flight attendant gets up and is like, hey, like, you're causing a disturbance, I need you to calm down. Yeah. Like, by FAA law, you're supposed to comply with that. Again, do I agree? Well, maybe not, because that gives like flight attendants who may not make the right decisions telling you how to, you know, go about your life. And in some cases it might be right. In some cases they might be pushing their power a little bit, right? So it's one of those gray lines where it's like, if I disagree with you, I'm probably not going to follow what you're telling me. But could you get in trouble for it? Probably. I don't know.
What I was saying is imagine if like one of the major airlines just they came out and said you do not need to wear a mask
Oh,
against everybody. Like,
Dude,
say if
do
there
you know
was
how much
one.
business they would have?
That's what I was saying. They would have made so much money if one of the airlines did that. I bet you they would have made bank.
They would have. I know.
Everyone
I would
would've-
have. I would have switched over there and flown with
I don't
them.
care how much it would have cost them.
Dude,
Like, oh gosh.
It cost me hours and hours. It got me to the point where I was just starting off in business, but I got so hassled with this, and just it was stressful. Like, just because I was, pushing it, it just made the whole entire travel process so much more stressful. I didn't want to fight with them over this process. Like, I just wanted to go fly and get my job done. But it got to the point where I was like, okay, how am I going to get around this? If this keeps going for years, how am I going to get around this? And I like came back and I told the team, I'm like, I don't care what size it is, but I'm buying my own plane. I'm hiring my own, pilot, and we're going to have a private jet one of these days in the business. I'm not going through TSA. I'm not going to go through all this crap again. The only way to do that is if it's mine. Let's go get it. I don't have it yet. I'm still on that goal, but one of these days.
Yeah.
All right. So I had a friend who literally got fired, and they were a remote worker that worked from home, but their company policy was everyone had to be vaccinated by a certain date.
That's
Even-
illegal. Did he
Even
sue?
remote workers, no, they didn't.
He should have sued. He would have gotten a payout.
And so he went and got it because of that. One of them, and the other one got fired. I knew two people. One ended up caving in, the other one, and I was like, how could they even do?
He could probably still go back and sue for that.
He probably could, huh?
Probably could.
Yeah.
Isn't that ridiculous? So you work from home,
Yeah.
100%. You never have to report to the office, and
Yeah.
you're like, you have to get the vaccine.
Dude, it's not.
That's
it's not,
like beyond stupid.
Look, your own health is your own responsibility. Your employer, your church, your government doesn't get to decide your own health for you. Plain and simple. And if you don't agree with putting something experimental into your body, that's also protected. Like, that's illegal on so many levels. And there were tons of cases where people fought against that and won. I had another buddy like you're talking about that was, I won't mention the company, but it's a very large company. And they tried to do the same thing, try to push it. And obviously he put in like a religious exemption.
Yeah.
And they were trying to deny it, to my understanding. And he's like, look, I'm not getting this. Like, it is because of that. And I don't think they pushed it too hard because they understood it was a religious exemption. And if they did, they could be in like hot water for it. So
you do consulting for other construction companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so when do you have a process whenever you're, because as a leader, whether it's, a man in the family or, whoever the leader is in the home, same thing goes for the organization where the leader has to have all the data to make the right decision, not to go off of peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
For you to consult, is this now part of the consulting process? Kind of share with them the because we've gone through COVID, how's the best way to address your team, your facility?
You're saying like if a situation like this happens?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't ran into it because construction really didn't shut down, and most of the construction companies didn't really deal with this at all. They didn't push like vaccine. They didn't push masks.
It's because they're essential. They got to keep the country going.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it's one of the industries that's still, for the most part, like one of the industries you don't have to be PC, right? Like, there's not a time I can't go into one of my clients, whether they're 10,000 employees or 2 employees, and just like be completely open with them. And that's, I guess, the benefit of also having your own private companies. Like, I get to decide what happens with my company. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna like fall to like woke America or any decisions, right? Like, again, if it doesn't make logical sense, if it's not up to my moral code, I'm not doing it. Now, when like COVID came out, I told my team, I said, I'm not taking the vaccine. I'm not wearing a mask. This is what I'm doing. You guys can do whatever you want. I'm not going to judge you either way. I'm not going to hire or fire anybody over you. Like, make your own decisions. Like, again, this is on a personal level. Like, here's our company policy. You're not required to do any of this stuff. And if you guys want to, by all means, I'm not going to stop you.
You're given the freedom to choose what they want.
It's their body. It's like their choice in the matter. Like, I'm not going to force them into that. I will give them advice. I think you highly, it's highly stupid, but don't worry about the repercussions of your actions in this case, because it's just not like a fireable offense, right? Like, if somebody on my team wanted to go get the vaccine, like, I'm not going to be like, all right, you're fired, you got it. And if somebody didn't want to get it, I'm not going to be like, hey, you're fired because you didn't get it. Just doesn't make sense.
Are you naturally that person where are you a good researcher?
I like to fight things that don't make sense. I like to research and like find out, why. Like if it just doesn't click in my mind, I'll do a lot of research to. Okay. Not that I like to do it, but it's one of those things that I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I got to figure out why it doesn't make sense.
Because I'm not the best researcher, and that's something that's I've also been kind of finding that interesting that lately, as I'm trying to look up things online to get answers, there's millions of things that'll direct you to, hey, this, and how to. One of the things I want to learn from you is that how did you filter out, what was being
like BS?
Yes. Yeah. What was actually being pushed in my face to rely on that data, and then how did you figure out which information was actually correct to go with?
It's tough because like early on, right, they hadn't removed a bunch of stuff off the web, but like as time got further, right, they started to remove things off Google. They started to push traffic to certain resources and not to others, right? Everything will contradict itself if it's not true. Mm-hmm. So like the truth is pretty apparent because you see it it's consistent. If it's not true, there's typically like a lot of areas where they'll contradict. So like the fact that they're like, hey, we have this major increase in COVID deaths, but then like the year later, we have like 1 death from the flu.
Yeah.
It's like, well, the year before you had 75,000 deaths from the flu. So it's like, where did all the flu deaths go? Right. So things like that. That's like, it's just contradictory. And then we were up in Pennsylvania early on in the COVID issue as well. And it was, I don't know how many months, maybe like 8 to 10 months after like it's really been going on. And they were like, yeah, this one hospital, like my clients were like, this one hospital nearby is like about to go out of business because they put basically everybody that they could marked as like a COVID death because you got extra funds to the hospital if it was a COVID death. And then
that's another thing. Yep.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
So then they got audited and they said, we don't think all these are COVID deaths because like that's the only thing you're marking is COVID deaths. And so they got audited and then they were like, had to go back, and then they owed millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars back to the government because they had fudged all these deaths. So they were like, this hospital might go out of business. I don't know what happened to it, but it was just like, that's nuts.
It's funny how we just don't know what happened to it.
Yeah, I didn't follow up on it, but I was like, if they've got to pay back all that money, that's a lot of money. I don't know how much it was per person that the government was giving them for COVID deaths, but it was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
I've had a handful of people have a lot of health issues that I know that have taken the vaccine. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people like, oh, no. Yeah. But have you run into that? Like,
oh, yeah, a lot. And even people that didn't, this is why I'm still pissed off about the world being so stupid, is the fact that because they pushed it so hard and because of everybody taking the vaccine, it caused like secondhand vaccine issues, right?
Is that the shedding even?
Yeah, the shedding. Yeah. Like we were more scared of the shedding than we were of COVID.
Yeah.
And we had, I can't prove it, but we had health issues in our family due to the shedding, just being out in public, and just having what we think is issues from the shedding.
What's the shedding?
So like if you were to take the vaccine, you can shed it by contact, almost like what they were saying COVID would do, right?
Yeah, it's like a herd thing. Like if you get enough people vaccinated, like on anything.
And look, I don't know the science behind it.
Yeah, I don't know the science either. But basically, like if you can vaccinate 80, there's 100 sheep and you get 80 of them, that's all you need to keep the other 20 safe. Pretty much doesn't mean that they will be safe, but like you have to vaccinate a certain percentage to create like a herd.
But it would be like if I'm in close proximity to you for a decent while, and you're out in public. Let's say you go to Costco. There's so many people you walk by on a daily basis. You don't know who's going to be shedding the vaccine stuff back onto you.
Gotcha.
Okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's similar to like coughing. It's same thing.
I've
as
heard
a virus,
of transferring. Right? I never heard of shedding.
Oh no!
If you look it up on Google, it'll probably tell you. But it may not be accurate anymore. But back then you could find sources and doctors that had talked about vaccine shedding from other vaccines in the past. And I've done way more research when COVID was like in the middle of its prime, right? But the fact of the mRNA vaccine changing your DNA on like a fundamental level was worrisome. And what we assumed would happen did happen, like on a global scale. And that's just like It reduced birth rate. It like sterilized a lot of men and women. And it's caused a huge issue globally.
I actually seen this online where there's a group of, there's an organization or even women that are requesting non-vaccinated males to reproduce with.
Isn't that funny? Because I think,
and they're going to pay money for it.
And I think early on after,
I know I can't volunteer. I'm married.
Yeah,
Second of all, I took care of that. I'm not have
there
kids anymore.
Well, yes, there were like posts about it where they're like, man, they're actually charging like a premium for like male sperm in sperm banks.
Like, go get that money.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm a married man. I'm a family man. I'm not gonna go do that. But like, I just thought that was funny. I'm like, some college students out there with like 50 kids. You know, like he's like, I'm gonna go do this. I'm not pushing this on you guys. Yeah, don't do it.
To go out.
Don't do it. Don't not do it. I don't know.
But make the right decision for yourself. Do the research. Yeah. But take care of what you're supposed to be taking care of. Be a responsible adult.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's my message to them.
Yeah. No, the shedding thing for a minute there was pretty hot. Like, especially like if your spouse got it and you didn't.
Yep.
And then there was this push actually of like there's a joke going around for probably about 2 or 3 months of like the people that were anti-masks.
Yeah.
We're like, well, now we got to wear masks because of all you little idiots.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I didn't fall into that either. But it was crazy,
dude.
Because it worried us. It worried us a lot because our friends, some of our closest friends got it because they wanted to go travel abroad. And I'm like, dang, man, looks like you can't come over to the house anymore. Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
It sucked. I was like, and of course they thought we were crazy. Probably still do. I don't know. But deal with it.
The crazy thing is, though, is if you look back,
yeah,
like from right now, of how insane the government pushed this with the politicians, and then they got Hollywood involved and these actors, and they're just like,
that's how you know it's fake.
Yeah. The moment that they start doing that, you're like,
see, that's where we're starting to notice a trend. You're trying to get other big time influencers they're like,
well, I just think it's funny because like I've never paid attention to those folks anyway.
Yeah.
No.
What makes you think
but there's a lot of people do.
Now?
Like, people will do whatever Taylor Swift tells them to do.
I know. That's
nuts.
I think it's crazy. That's like a religion nowadays.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it's very weird. Very weird. But yeah, I mean, like, I remember watching like Arnold Schwarzenegger come on and be like, get vaccinated. And I'm like, well, you're retarded.
Yeah, I know, right?
Sorry. Like, I love your movies, dude, but like, I'm not going to listen to you because of your professional experience.
I mean, if you're in Hollywood and you're like putting on like Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that guy.
He was one of my favorite
actors. I love
actors.
him as an actor, yeah.
I loved him in, Meet the Parents. You know, obviously he was in, some of the big recognizable, he was in The Raging Bull. Mm-hmm. But now I just look at that guy, I'm like, dude,
you look at everybody way different after they've come out like that. It's like, who was it? I don't know. He's been like this for years, but there was one guy in comedy that I was like, we used to watch as kids, and he was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then he just got so far down the rabbit hole on this stuff. It's just like, man, this is so cringeworthy, dude. Like, can't even look at you the same anymore. Like, you can't look at anybody. I mean, I don't know. I haven't had cable or like television since like freshman year in college. So
just use this, dude.
Yeah, honestly, it's really sad when you get better and more accurate news from TikTok than you do from the actual news.
That's where it's going, though.
Because they're independent people that are actually doing the research. And again, not that you should take their word for it. Like, go out and do your own research. But it's funny because, like, I just think if you look at all the track record of step by step what happened since Bush, right? Like, laws being passed and on the books, what Obama did to the news agencies, and then going into like where we're at now, like it's very apparent like somebody's pulling the strings.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, even with these actors, they got something on you.
That's it.
They'll I mean, as soon as they get something on you, you'll dance.
I mean, we could go really far down the rabbit hole.
Man. Like, that's just the start. That's just the start of
just the start. Well, and I mean, you think,
Human Grove. I mean, like,
there's so many rabbit holes to dive down. But it's being pulled. The strings are being pulled, and we're not on the get to know list. But we can obviously see what's happening. If you want to do your own research and you want to like think logically on this stuff, it's pretty easy to like step 1, 2, and 3. How would you destroy a nation? Doing a pretty good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a fun rabbit hole to go down, though.
Oh yeah.
I can go down that all day long.
Just look at how many politicians are literally paid by China. And then,
what's that one in what's his name? I think it starts with an S. The guy from California that had the spy. What's his name?
I don't know. But I mean, you think
Dang
of I don't think he's the lead anymore. I really don't pay attention as much as I used to. But like Mitch McConnell is like a great example of
He's
like,
terrible.
Yeah, I mean like his wife is
dude.
from China and her dad owns some shipping company, right? And Chinese government's paid directly for that shipping company to export all these ships into the US. And so like obviously it's like a rumor that it's probably provable. I haven't dove down it, but like I'm sure the rumor is basically like if he were to come out and bluntly say where he stood on COVID or any of these other issues, then like the government of China would just basically squeeze his father-in-law's company until it's nothing, or just take all the resources back, and then it would fail, right? So he's got all this. He's got this $1 billion company that his father-in-law owns that could just like disappear one day if he doesn't say the right things. And that's just one example of hundreds of people that are like in political power that are being like influenced through like an outside source somehow.
Yeah,
So,
real quick.
go
I can't remember who said this recently. I don't know why. It's a very popular guy, but he said, if your price is not your life, then you can be bought. What is your price? And so the more money and wealth you accumulate and the more power you get, the easier you are to be bought because you don't want to give it up.
Yeah.
You don't.
And unless you lived a moral life. And like we're all going to make mistakes, right? But like, dude, if you go to Epstein's Island and you go messing around with young kids and they get
that's
you on
just
video,
evil.
Yeah, that's evil. Like you should be taken down. Like it doesn't matter how much money you're worth. And this is where it's bad is like the fact that they have that much money means they have the power. And people will know that they've done that, but what can you do? Right?
Yeah.
Like there's only one route that you can take to get rid of that person.
So I put out this this Instagram post, and that you'll appreciate this because of checkmate training, that is you got to build a bulletproof mindset.
Yeah.
Because even with everything that's going on today, because you could be upset, you could go down that rabbit hole, you could do all the research. You got to have faith in yourself. You got to have faith in humanity, because I do believe, and this is my own personal opinion, that everyone does want to do good.
Yeah.
And so
their definition of good is just much different than
Yeah,
it's just different.
I don't know if I believe that, but keep going.
You don't believe that?
No.
Okay.
Well, I do believe there are people that don't want to do good by far.
There's a few people that don't.
Yeah.
Majority.
Yes.
Think they're doing good.
But I didn't mean to like jump in, but
That's okay. So today, I mean, it's now people. I mean, we understand that not everyone like obviously the news sources. No one trusts them anymore.
Yeah.
Our government is lost. We've lost the public has lost confidence in them to 100%. Govern correctly. How do you still build a bulletproof mindset? I have my own way of doing that. What would you suggest on how do you build a bulletproof mindset to where you can still continue to, because you're a father, you have 3 kids, and you still need to be able to provide, show leadership, show steady in the household, you and your wife, to be able to have the kids feel confident that mom and dad has us.
Yeah. Good question. It's harder every single day to trust in yourself to make the right decisions. I think I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian, and like I have a moral code, right? And I try to follow that moral code the best I can. And I also, first and foremost, want to pray every single day that I have the discernment to pick what is right and wrong, the decisions for our family, for our companies, things like that, where like you put all of that stuff into God's hands, and you just trust Him to be leading you into the right decisions. And the fact that I do pray every day for His discernment, like I already know that my heart and mind is enmity against Him, right, against His way of life. I'm not going to be drawn to doing what's right. Your heart, your mind naturally is not drawn to doing what's right. Only through like His Spirit can you like be guided into doing what's right and wrong, or what's right, not wrong. So like you try to put all of that weight on Him and live to your best ability to be able to do what is right, based off of His moral code that He's given you. And that's how I try to go about it every day. I know I'm not perfect. I don't make right decisions on everything. And I don't have answers for everything, and I fail a lot. But yeah, I try to put all of that weight on him.
And so what's helped me out? I mean, just the next couple of days, this really hit me hard. Was I saw this online through social media that someone was questioning, how do I know I'm feeding? How do I know I'm doing right with God? And the gentleman who spoke to the young man says, "Do you worry a lot?" He goes, "Yeah, I worry all the time." Then you're letting the devil win. You're actually encouraging the devil to win. Because if you stop worrying, the devil doesn't win and God wins. Because you're giving God your full faith in Him and casting your worries, your fear to Him.
I mean, God tells you to prove all things and test all things, right?
Yeah.
And that's not on your own understanding, right? That's on His. And so like worrying and stressing isn't going to do anything. He already told you He's going to give you everything you need in life: food, shelter, health. He told you that. And that, a lot of people will go, well, why did so-and-so have a health issue and die? Why did He allow this stuff? It's like, that's what the world allowed. It's not what God allowed. God may allow it to happen because we have free will in this world. And we get to make our own choices, like through COVID, right? And just because someone died during COVID that shouldn't have died, none of that's God's fault, right? I think we lead our lives to the best of our ability, and we lean on God 100%. Whatever happens is in His hands, right? Decisions are in His hands. Every step of growth through life is in His hands. And ultimately, when you look at your life when you're 100, if you get to live that long, or 70, whatever God blesses you with, when you look back at it, you hope that you just made the right decisions based on what He gave you, right? Everybody's story is different.
Yeah.
So
I want to piggyback on what you said on the discernment part. Is if you don't have the Holy Spirit, you won't get discernment. And a lot of people don't understand this.
Yeah.
And I didn't. It took me years to understand. I feel like in the last year I'm figuring this out. Because I would follow God, I believed in Jesus, but I was like, "What the heck is the Holy Spirit?" But when you asked about a mindset, how do you do it? Is you don't lean on your own understanding. And you were saying that, and you were saying that, and so that's what Jesus did when He came and died. Is He let us have the Holy Spirit, and so when you actively engage in that, you can go look online, you can go do what you want, but if you are actively in communion with God and praying, you test it. You ask Him, is this messed up or not? And is He going to tell you or not? And most people don't believe that God can even talk to you nowadays. A lot of Christians don't believe that.
Well, and that's 2 points on that. So my belief might be different than y'all's or anybody else's, right? So I look at people that don't physically have the Holy Spirit, right, in them. They could probably still have discernment. The Spirit could still be guiding them, right? Yeah, obviously they can see stuff. I know you don't disagree with that.
I do not.
But then, that the tool of having the Holy Spirit part of your life and rebirthed in you, right, gives you direct access to God.
It's a superpower, man.
And
it's crazy.
When He says meditate on my law day and night, I don't know about you, but when I have long drives on the highway, when I'm waking up in the morning, prayer is not required to be get on your knees, get in a dark room, and pray to God out loud. It can be, and it should be that, but it can also be just a constant conversation, right? He's your father, right? Would you go to your father to ask for advice in hard situations? Yeah, absolutely. A kid should be able to give a phone call to their dad when they've made a ton of mistakes and they're sitting there and they're worried. You have direct access to them. Having that one-on-one conversation, that access, like you said, through Christ's death, is our biggest tool that we can use in this life. The biggest tool we can use in this life. And not a lot of people access it, like you say, right? Most people's blessings are going to come when they directly ask God for those blessings. He tells us that. So it's a huge benefit that we have.
Yeah, and I do want to I agree with you too. God can speak and use through anybody.
Yeah.
Whether if they've acted or not. God's I'm choosing you.
Yep.
He did that in the Bible a few times, and He's I'm coming for you.
Yep.
And
they don't want it.
yeah, well, and I know, isn't that crazy? Yeah. And but what you said too, I want to touch base real quick, and I think we're getting close. Man, we go through these so fast, almost an hour. I feel like we can talk all day.
I know.
We could go all day.
Yeah, is
a couple coffee breaks. And
the whole thing about everybody wants to do good, I think, is such an interesting topic.
That is a really interesting topic because I don't know if I've thought about that a lot.
I've thought about this a lot, actually. And so I want to dive into it because I know when you say it, I feel like I know exactly where you're coming from and what your heart is and what you mean by it. And I've actually ran into a few people and had this conversation, which a lot of people don't. Like, it's a weird topic, right?
Yeah.
But like when you say good, where is the source of when you say good coming from? Is it your own understanding, what we just talked about? Is it someone else's? Is it a leader's, or is it the God Almighty?
Well, like in this case, right, that'd be perception of what's good and bad, right? So like everybody's perception, like Hitler's perception of good was he was doing good. Obviously he didn't, right? Slaughtering a whole bunch of people is not typically a good thing to do. But in his mind and his followers thought they were doing good to the planet, to Earth, right? They had a grand purpose. And we dive heavily into the purpose part when we consult companies, because companies don't realize how powerful they become when they actually create their purpose for their employees and like have access now to that tool to drive their employees to do great things, right? A nation can do that. A leader can do that. If you've developed a purpose that to you looks really great, but to another group looks really bad, in your mind you're doing a great thing, but other people look at it like Islam looks at Christianity as like the worst, right? And Christianity probably looks at Islam as the worst, right? These are two intersecting religions that have familiarities in certain areas and then drastically different approaches in other areas, and they all look at what they're doing as good. So it is an interesting topic.
Where is your source coming from? Because I actually had this conversation with someone, and they're like, well, you know what good is? And I'm like, no, when you say that, I don't know what you mean. And I did this on purpose to like ask them questions. I'm like, how do you, because like what you say, I could grab another person and I guarantee you we're going to find something that you guys disagree on. Yeah. At some point, there's going to be it's like that. You ever see that billboard? It's kind of funny, like, where do you eat, like, your food, and it, like, stops at, like, the chicken, and then, like, you have the horses and the dogs, and you're like, have you ever seen this?
Yeah, I think I have.
It was, like, a famous billboard, and I don't see them anymore, but, like, the whole point is someone else will have a line somewhere else, and we're like, this is my line. Well, where are you getting that line from?
Yeah, well, and that's where we go back, right? Like, if we're Christians and we're, in the faith, like, you have your moral code based off of, the Bible and the law and what God's taught you through the examples that he's shown, in the Word. People that don't have that same moral code that you do, right? So like that's where we have so much issues in our country nowadays, is because the Bible has become such like people have treated it almost as if it's like mythology, right? And that it's not real. And once we've lost like faith in the nation, you start to degrade on every other moral value, right? Everything becomes confused. Now men are women and women are men. Yeah. Everyone's confusing everything nowadays. And Satan's number one tool in destroying people's lives is confusion. He's the author of confusion, chaos. So it's very apparent, right? Who's actually pulling the strings?
It's so funny you said that, because I was literally like, and I'd like talking about this all the time. I was like, this is a spiritual thing going on.
It's a spiritual
here.
battle, man. And like why do you think they're going after kids so hard right now?
Oh, dude.
Right? Why do you think that is? Because like that's the future, and that's
the most influential.
Yeah, the most influential, and also the most innocent life, right? And they have a special place in God's heart, for sure. Yeah. And they are to be protected like at all costs. Yeah. Like there's no limit to how we should protect kids.
That's why against this stuff. Right away when we're like, it's just evil.
It is.
There's just
and
pure
that's
evil.
That's the thing, is like, this is where it's interesting on like your topic, is everybody thinks they're doing good. Like even the people that are evil in their mindset, we look at like evil, they might look at it like they're doing great work, right? I have my own ideas on what those people what we need to do to those people, but yeah, it is evil. There's evil in this world, and it's directed from Satan.
And that's the key though, is like this is a whole topic. I don't want to go down right now. This would be an hour, but let me. You know what? I'm gonna go crazy.
You can dive into it.
For the next
one. No.
Hold it for the next one.
Wait. We gotta get him back and talk. I want to talk.
Yeah, we're gonna have you back again.
Okay, cool.
So, guys,
I could go for hours. Yeah, I could go.
So our audience, again, if you guys like this stuff that we're talking about, please hit that subscribe button. Join, be part of the AAC community here, and just letting you guys know the reason why we're putting on these type of topics is because, again, these things need to be questioned. Things need to be challenged because we want free thinking. We want people to be able to be okay with challenging thought process and understanding the right way. And I believe we're demonstrating a right way of being able to bring topics up, have the conversation, be able to butt heads, and we're going to get some more people on here. We're not going to agree with them. And so, but the last thing I want to leave here is just be okay with it. Understand everyone's not going to agree with each other, but know that we're all here to survive, and we got to be able to survive together. Forrest, how can everyone find you?
Oh man, I'm on Instagram, on every social media platform. My business is Eagle Eye Productions, and then my personal Instagram is The Consultant. And yeah, that's basically it. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all those things.
Well, we'll put your the way people can get in contact with you in the description below. But guys, hit that subscription button. Forrest, thank you, brother, for coming on out.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna have you out again, especially for our 20th episode. The 20th episode, we will have. What are we gonna have, Jaron, on our 20th episode?
Dude, we're gonna do a poker night.
We're gonna do a poker night
with previous guests.
Oh, I love it.
So stay tuned. This is what episode was this? This is episode.
This would be 14, I believe.
14th.
Yeah, when this one comes out.
All right, so get ready for next month. We'll be able to do that in the month of July.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Guys, thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.